Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. It's funny, we're in the winter, which usually doesn't mean rain. However, the last 2 weeks it's been full of rain, so you never know what the weather's going to be down here in South Florida, and that does wreak havoc on our homes and our offices. No worries. Water Cleanup of Florida is here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. 954-579-0356 is the number to call. Michael, Robert, George, their entire team has well over 60 years of combined experience, and they will put that to good use for you. Plus, with licensed, certified, insured contractors, they are a one-stop shop, meaning they can come assess the situation, fix it, and make it look brand new. 954-579-0356. Check them out on the website, WCUFL.com, on the socials at Water Cleanup FL. With so much going on in our lives, so much going on with our homes and offices, make it easy on yourself. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Miami Dolphins had lots of guts early in the season and late, like we've seen for so many years. They were a lot of schmutz. We had a Pigskin Playbook with John Congemi talking about all things Dolphins right here, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
There he is. Whew, wow. Bringing up the level of appearance on the show is the great week. John Congemi. How are you, John?
I'm doing great, guys. Sorry I'm a little bit late today. Just running a little bit crazy, but everything's good, guys. What a weekend for NFL football. It was crazy.
Fantastic, yeah. I was just going to dive into some notes on the other games, but we really wanted to zero in on this Dolphin game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and all I could say was, wow, extremely deflating, my friend. I don't know. I saw you on TV after the game. I think you were in much better shape than Mike Cunha was.
Boy, it looked cold there, didn't it? Man.
Well, characterized, I think, and epitomized by the fact that there were icicles on Andy Reid's mustache.
They actually were.
At first, I don't know if that was a snot ball that froze or what, but having not had a lot of facial hair in my lifetime, I don't know how prohibitive it is to go out in cold weather and not expect to have that happen. But, freaking cold. The field condition didn't look that horrendous, so I don't know how compromising that was. Obviously, on TV, you can't necessarily see the wind, but what did you make of it? Because, again, I mean, just as in the game that and how harmful was that loss to the Tennessee Titans? My God. Think about how that juxtaposed virtually everything in terms of the Dolphins' playoff chances. But I saw you on the post-game. What did you think? Everybody was a little bit depressed after that ball game that was in the position to do analysis.
Well, I think you had to be if you were a Dolphin fan, only because the season was so positive in so many respects and so blah in others, because the Dolphins couldn't figure out how to beat a good team and characterize that as, you know, the Dallas game. Are they really a good team, or are they kind of like the Dolphins? Yeah. Are they a mirror image of what the Dolphins are? This team has a ton of talent. This team has a ton of explosiveness. They have good players. They were decimated with injury. Whether you like it or not, it's not an excuse. It's the reality of the situation. They're going after Patrick Mahomes, who could be one of the greatest escape artists known to play the position, with guys coming off the street with 2 or 3 days practice. And you've got linebackers in the middle that already have some flaws, that are trying to track down other guys that have a skill set that probably they were overmatched. You have a corner that's down. You pick on a corner that had been picked on all year. So there was a lot of similarities in, as the Dolphin season went along, as the injuries started to pile up, the same trends were there on offense, defense, and special teams. Now, to credit the defense, guys, they forced 4 chip shot field goals that gave the Dolphins an opportunity to come back in the game. You know, it could have been a rout very easily. And the odd thing for me was, I don't think it was until the 2-play drive that Tua looked at Hill and said, "Hey, he's my guy. I got to try to get the ball to him." You know, you get the bomb downfield, and other than that, it felt like, gosh, they were taking him out of the game. and the quick catch and throw in cold weather and extremely cold weather, everyone in the league should get that out of their offense, unless it's a night that has some tact to it, has a little bit of drizzle, and you feel like you can, feel the football, catch it and throw it. Because on a frigid night where that ball's slick, all quarterbacks struggled with catching it, not gripping it, and just trying to throw the hand grenade out to your playmaker. I think the Dolphins played along the line of scrimmage way too much and didn't get it to Waddle and Hill, didn't focus on those two guys enough.
Look, and the thing is, it's so funny because the injuries on defense were laughable by the time the game started, but they hung in the game on defense. Defense actually wasn't, for the second straight game, their major issue. Defense wasn't elite. They couldn't get off the goddamn field again, but they kept the Chiefs out of the end zone. So they kept the team in the game. Again, for the second straight year, from December on, this offense seems to have gotten figured out. Now, it was negative 30. So both offenses looked like they were struggling. Even the Chiefs, people were like, well, the Chiefs were all over the place. What are you talking about? They had, I know they have drops a lot, but it wasn't like they had less drops. Patrick Mahomes looked off. Like, it wasn't like the Chiefs were crisp. So that does go into play. I totally get it. Look, if they're at home, I presume their offense looks better. But again, we've seen this for like 75% of the year. The offense is scintillating. And for the second straight year, the offense seems to get figured out this part of the year. And when they play this level of team, what do they, because McDaniel took onus about play calling, and he took onus about the offense needs to keep growing. Tua needs to keep growing. When you look at this offense, what do you say about that? Because to me, the Hill Waddle thing seems to only get them so far. Teams try to figure that out, and they don't have anywhere else to go.
I think in those situations, you need to be able to run the football a little bit better. And I don't think the Dolphins controlled the line of scrimmage enough to be able to rely on the 1-2 punch of Chan and Mostert. I think if those guys got going like Pacheco did, I think the Dolphin offense would have gotten a little bit smoother of a ride. I don't know if they win the game, but they're in the game. They're punch for punch. I don't know if Tua handles the cold real well. I just it's kind of obvious now that it's not a thing that's why you want to win the Tennessee game. So you don't have to go on the road and maybe until the championship game where you only have to win one time. And maybe that's not always in temperatures in the outside. You look at the way Mahomes threw the football, or you look at Josh Allen, last night, and even Rudolph for that matter. I mean, they all handled it, and I don't know. I think that's a learned trait, and I don't ever think Tua was exposed to that. It's not his fault. I just don't know if he excels at his level of acceptability or his consistency, and that may be just a reality.
I always felt this. I mean, and I played in any number of recreational games. At Syracuse in ridiculous temperatures and conditions. We'd go outside when it was 50 to below and play. And you played, at Pitt. I mean, it wasn't like you were, playing.
Canada was no picnic,
Palm
guys.
Springs.
Let me just tell you.
I did always feel, though, that a good offense in adverse conditions like that was actually at an advantage. Because as a receiver, you know where you're going. The defensive back doesn't necessarily. And if the footing, the footing on the field, it didn't seem to be so prohibitive. So, the cold temperature was the thing that you were dealing with. But I still, all of the, the major injuries appeared to be on defense. Yeah. So understandable that they might struggle in that category to put pressure on Mahomes and, have the secondary up to speed. But how do you justify scoring the 7 points? I know you talked about they didn't take any shots down the field. It just seemed like the offense that was so explosive early in the season sort of melted down on them as we came down the stretch. And it was another December swoon by this Miami Dolphin team.
Well, since the second half of the Buffalo game, I think the Dolphins were 1 of 12 on third down.
Yes, a third down. And
they couldn't stay on the field.
Yeah.
And conversely, even though the Dolphin defense forced 4 chip shot field goals, I think Kansas City was 6 of 15. Yep. and they made and Mahomes had 2 runs for 41 yards.
Yeah.
Okay. You can say what you want, but those are backbreakers.
Yeah.
I said going into the Buffalo game, if you can, Josh Allen was averaging over 50, maybe 55 yards a game just against the Dolphins, using his legs in either scrambling situations, planned runs. His legs beat the Dolphins, basically. Mahomes did the same thing, only did it twice. But those 2 runs were so key and critical to move the football into the red zone, to get them in the scoring position, to keep the Dolphin offense on the sidelines and put Kansas City in scoring situations. And I think in back-to-back weeks, as well as the defense tried to bow their back with the players that they were using, it was almost like the paper cuts. It was a paper cut.
Cuts. Yep.
And all of a sudden, you couldn't have the offense kind of answer for you. They kept falling further behind, and it felt like the Miami Dolphins as a team they were just treading water, just as kind of hang around, and after a while, it was just too much.
I'm sure they would prefer to be in Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill than in Kansas City. And, of course, John's appearance every week brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. And that is a dynamite place to relax, especially after a tough loss to end the season or any time. We've got some great months coming up of what should be fabulous weather if the clouds ever move out of here. It looks pretty bright and sunny today. So head down there, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo, and enjoy yourself a good time, whether it's just for an afternoon or for a long weekend. Spectacular place to be. All right, the questions arise again. And, it was Abbott and Costello, right, with the Niagara Falls routine. It was so long ago for me, and the memory is a little bit shot with all the stuff that is going on. But I keep hearing that, Niagara Falls, slowly he turned. And all you have to do to trigger Lubie and spark a tirade is mention Mike McDaniel, some of the things that he's done as a head coach. A good friend of ours, Joe Casale, had a very interesting post on social media about this, suggesting, and this is not a category that you want your head coach to be in when people are considering, well, you know what, this guy might be some kind of freak genius when it comes to offense, but is he a head coach? If you had a chance to hire Bill Belichick right now, if you were Stephen Ross at 83 years old, and you figured, as they say now, it's kind of the cliche that, well, it's a small window of opportunity that the Dolphins have. If you wanted to win a Super Bowl or be in a position to do that, which it did appear the Dolphins had a shot early in the year, but then it started to look like they were actually very far away. Is Mike McDaniel just a great offensive mind that should be a coordinator somewhere, or is he head coach material? I hate to condemn the guy after 2 years because he's extremely likable, very refreshing by NFL standards in terms of the way he approaches everything and the things that he talks about. But is he getting out coached by the really good coaches in the league on a consistent basis?
Every time.
I don't know if he's getting out coached by them. I mean, it's hard to argue the Dolphins going, to the playoffs and back-to-back seasons. Belichick looked kind of exposed without Tom Brady over the past few years. So I don't know how his expertise at his age is going to resonate with a young football team that's trying to get to where the New England teams of the past and the great teams have been. I think McDaniel is the right person for this team and the way they want to win. I just don't think that. I think they need to go back this offseason and examine everything. And that means coach analyzing his coaching ability and what he's doing in certain situations, how he's preparing for certain teams and how he's attacking certain teams and how he can be better in terms of play calling.
Well, they did early in this game. Sorry to cut in, but remember, they ran it on first down, gained 4 yards, ran on second down, gained, and it was a tight game. They were actually going punt for the Chiefs early. Had a 3rd and 2 near midfield and threw it. It's like, what the fuck? Then, instead of punting on 4th and 2, he throws it again. It's like, McDaniel, dude, what? And if you notice from that point on, the offense was moving and they had some confidence. And from that point on, the offense sort of looked like, okay, I guess he doesn't.
Well, Lubie, to your point, remember that the Dolphins are moving the ball, but they get an illegal formation on 3rd and inches.
That was that other drive.
Okay.
Yep.
Now it goes to 3rd and 6, and we get the interception.
Yep.
Edwards steps in, overthrows, Tua overthrows Waddle, and Edwards gets the interception. I mean, it's That's not coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's guys kind of owning up to say, like, you go back and every team in their bye week, they go to self scouting, right? You go, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How predictable are we? Why are we in these formations? Why are we using this motion? I think this offseason is critical to try to figure out, if you're going to beat good teams, sometimes you just have to line up and be better than them. It's not always smoke and mirrors. The 4-yard gain is a good 4-yard gain. It's not double motion, fake the reverse, throw,
Run it.
Statue of Liberty.
Sometimes you have to win more consistently on the line of scrimmage. And for all the injuries that the Dolphins had on defense, no one really ever talks about how the starting offensive line was in shambles most of the season. But you go back to your consistency point in running the football on first down and second down, all of a sudden now we're going to throw it. If the Dolphins win a few more plays up front, or give the play caller the confidence that they will do that, maybe you get there a little easier. I don't know. I mean, sometimes you just have to do it. That's why I'm saying it's like, Tua talked about after the game how communication and verbiage, and it was, lengthy. Sometimes you just go up and you just run play 32 on your wristband. Okay.
Yes.
So here it is. This is it. It's we're going to go power outside zone, right? Whatever it is, the formation, and you kind of start going tempo with the running game, not just tempo spreading it out. And, if you've got the horses up front to do it, sometimes that's how you become more of a dominant team. When there's 4 minutes left in the game and you need a couple of first downs, you have something to fall back on and say, hey, we can do this.
John Congemi with us, a Pigskin Playbook, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. We have to bail out a little bit early today, and we want to touch on some of the other games. But before we conclude at least this session on the Miami Dolphins, if you were going to do this deep dive, John Congemi, and you were Chris Greer, which I think maybe we'd be better off if you were in there instead of Chris Greer sometimes. But what would be, the one essential thing that you see, and what are the issues they're facing in terms of cap considerations, free agency, and things like that? Taking those things into account, what's the one essential that you see that is kind of tugging at the Dolphins that they need to address and need to address it successfully?
Well, you saw the biggest issue this year. Everybody was talking about all the injuries and next man up mentality, right?
Yeah.
So you had next guys up. The next guys up for X was Eli Apple. Who did they attack? Eli Apple.
Oh, yeah.
You drafted Smith with your first pick in the second round last year. He didn't touch the field. Why? I don't know. He looked really good. Yeah. He looked really good in the preseason. Everybody's going, man, when he gets his chance, I know, you got Ramsey, who was hurt. So you got Apple and X, and then X goes down, Ramsey comes back, and you still got Apple. Offensive line, center goes down. Eichenberg takes him probably about a month to get up to speed, but is he going to be now your center moving forward, or are you going to have to pay Williams? Armstead played 8 games again, or 7 games, or 9 games, or whatever. He's making so much money. You're going to really rely on him for a 17-game stretch again? My biggest thing is their strike zone started last year in terms of winning a Super Bowl.
Yep.
And they went all in. And what have they gotten out of it the first 2 years? They've gotten 0 out of it. So you've got to strike this offseason in terms of getting rid of the dead weight, getting rid of not dead weight, big contracts that are underperforming, or contracts that you feel like you can kind of throw off the ship, and really strike unbelievably in free agency at those key positions, at left tackle, at corner, at middle linebacker.
Oh, God, okay.
Linebacker. In terms of depth. Those are the things I'm sure that the Dolphins are looking at and addressing. And strategically, who are you going to re-sign? Are you going to re-sign Wilkins for 20? I don't know. They got Sealer on a bargain deal. Are you going to re-sign your center for whatever that's going to cost you? Are you going to re-sign Hunt at right guard? There's a lot on the table for the Miami Dolphins, and it's just not as a fan, you're going, okay, maybe it's just 2 or 3 positions. It's a lot. And it's a lot of major decisions on a team that hasn't won a playoff game in a long time.
Over 20 years.
Okay. Now they've gotten to the dance, which is half the battle. But you got to get to the dance wearing your best clothing. You don't want to get to the dance wearing, just cut up jeans and a t-shirt, because now you're on the road again.
Yep.
If this team's going to win, and it's hard to say in professional football, because you would think more of this in a lower level, but this team hasn't proven they can beat good teams home or on the road. No. So you got a better chance at home. Yep. So if you're gonna get in the playoffs, you better get home field advantage. And that means you got to find a way to beat the Bills, which they haven't been able to do.
When they have that kickoff luncheon for all the season ticket holders next
you want
year
that
sometime.
You want that speech?
No, I think the film, it's always very favorable, even when they had pathetic seasons where they won 6 games. And I used to attend these things, and you'd watch the film, and you would have thought they won the Super Bowl, it's all the highlights.
Down at the Miami airport,
yeah. But I think they should title the film 4 Minutes Against Tennessee.
Yes, that was the whole season. That was the season.
It's over. It's done. You know how much confidence a team has if they end up winning that game? They win the AFC East, and they're hosting
unbelievable
the Steelers or whoever
somehow?
It's going to be.
Oh my God, are they going to have the Steelers? Holy
it would have the
Steelers
who
might not have scored a point.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Well, the Dolphins didn't play the Steelers. They played the Kansas City Chiefs after blowing a game versus the lowly Tennessee Titans, forcing them to have a face-off with the Bills, losing to the Bills at the end of the year, losing the AFC East, which they led for pretty much the entire season, and found themselves on the road in ridiculously cold temperatures in Kansas City. -30, fourth coldest game in NFL history, and the Dolphins look like it. It's not like the Chiefs were annihilating the Dolphins. Dolphins had, as we just talked about with John Congemi, Dolphins had major issues on defense, 5 or 6 starters out, and still held the Chiefs in check for most of that game offensively. Yeah, they moved the ball a lot, but they weren't getting touchdowns. Dolphins offense, which was the calling card of this team most of the season, was a disaster. And yes, they did have injury issues up front. Connor Williams out for the year. And once he was out, their offense started to struggle. And Tyreek Hill banged up. Jalen Waddle banged up. But the offense was a disaster for December and January, much like it was last year for December and January. A lot of questions for the Dolphins heading into this offseason. Mike McDaniel, I don't see going anywhere. Tua Tagovailoa, I don't see going anywhere. But they do need to grow. You went all in. Again, first-round picks, second-round picks. Big contract for veterans. You don't go all in to go to the playoffs and lose back-to-back seasons in the first round. You just don't. You go to win Super Bowls, at least contend for Super Bowls, and this franchise is not doing that. A lot of questions. They will need some answers this offseason. We will find that out as the offseason goes on. The playoffs roll on to the divisional round. We'll talk more about that. The Miami Heat, still playing strong basketball in the top 5 of the Eastern Conference, so we'll talk lots about that as the season rolls on. More things. Check us out each and every morning from 8 to 9 on the Defo Show with Lubie on South Florida Live. Check us out with our daily podcast. We do it on Caffeine TV, No Filter. Just go to Google, The Morning Briefing, Caffeine TV. It's also nofilter.net. We have the Believe Podcast Network, BLEAV.com, search after hours, where we do a national podcast. And here, our South Florida content, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?